You know what's fascinating? While most people check their phone for the time, there's an entire group of people who own 15, 20, sometimes 50 watches they'll never wear all at once. And psychologists just figured out why their brains work completely differently than everyone else's. There's a difference between owning a watch and collecting watches. One tells time, the other tells you something about the architecture of human obsession. And what scientists discovered will completely change how you see that friend who just dropped $8,000 on their seventh Rolex. See, for decades, psychologists lumped watch collectors into the same category as hoarders or materialistic people. Just another addiction, another inability to control spending, another consumer trapped by marketing. But then something fascinating happened in the research. In 2019, a team of behavioral psychologists at the University of Geneva did something nobody had really done before. They asked a simple question: what if watch collectors aren't chasing status or filling a void? What if their brains are actually wired to experience time, craftsmanship, and meaning differently? They called it temporal mechanical cognition, not just appreciation for watches, but a fundamentally different relationship with objects that measure the one thing none of us can control. And when they studied these people, plot twist, they found something nobody expected. Let me break down what's actually happening in the brain of someone who collects watches, because trust me, it's not what you think. Number one, their dopamine hits different. Literally. Here's the thing most people don't understand. When someone buys a watch, they're not buying a tool. They already have a phone. They already know what time it is. What they're buying is captured complexity. Neuroscientists discovered that watch collectors experience dopamine release from three distinct triggers that most people's brains completely ignore. First, mechanical appreciation. When they look at a movement, a tourbillon, the intricate gears working in perfect harmony, their brain lights up the same way a musician's brain does when hearing a symphony. It's not about the object. It's about witnessing human ingenuity compressed into 40 millimeters of wearable engineering. Second, historical connection. Many collectors obsess over vintage pieces not because they're expensive, but because they represent frozen moments in time. A 1960s Speedmaster worn during the moon landing, a military-issued watch from World War II. Their brain isn't collecting metal and glass. It's collecting tangible links to human achievement. And third, here's where it gets wild: future preservation. Research from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that collectors score exceptionally high in what's called legacy orientation. They're not just buying for themselves. They're buying something that will outlast them, something they can pass down, something that proves they were here. That's not materialism. That's mortality management through craftsmanship. Number two, they're not avoiding the present. They're honoring precision. Let's get one thing straight. Non-collectors look at someone wearing a $15,000 watch and think, that's just showing off. But here's what they're missing. For actual collectors, the price is almost irrelevant. What matters is the complication, the heritage, the mechanical truth. You know what's strange? Studies show that watch collectors often struggle with digital devices, not because they're technologically incompetent, but because their brains crave permanence in a world of planned obsolescence. A quartz watch from the 80s still works. An iPhone from the 80s doesn't exist. Psychologists call this analog anchoring. In a culture where everything updates, breaks, becomes obsolete in 3 years, watch collectors found something that resists entropy. A well-maintained mechanical watch can run for centuries. Your smartwatch will be e-waste in a decade. Their obsession isn't about rejecting progress. It's about preserving the idea that some things should be built to last. And honestly, that's not shallow. That's philosophical resistance against disposability culture. Number three, they're time anxious in the most fascinating way. Ever notice how watch collectors talk about complications like other people talk about relationships? Moon phase, perpetual calendar, chronograph, GMT function. It sounds obsessive until you realize what's actually happening. These people have an acute awareness of time's passage, not in an anxious, I'm wasting my life way, but in a deeply respectful way. They collect instruments that measure the thing everyone else is desperately trying to ignore, that we're all running out of time. Research published in Psychological Science found that people who collect time-related objects score significantly higher in present moment awareness than the general population. They're not escaping reality. They're more grounded in it. Every glance at their wrist is a reminder. This moment matters. This hour won't come back. Use it well. That's not materialism. That's meditation with gears. But here's where it gets complicated. Some collectors aren't honoring time. They're trying to control it. And that's where we need to be honest with ourselves. Number four, the shadow side nobody talks about. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Not all watch collecting comes from a healthy place. Some people aren't building a collection. They're building armor. For some collectors, each new watch is a trophy that says, I made it, I'm successful, I'm valuable. The watch isn't the point. The validation is. Psychologist Tim Kasser found that materialistic pursuits often mask deeper insecurities about self-worth. When your identity is tied to what you own, you're not collecting watches. You're collecting proof that you matter. The question isn't, do you collect watches? The question is, why do you collect watches? If your answer involves words like craftsmanship, heritage, mechanical beauty, preservation, you're probably in that healthy collector zone. If your answer involves words like status, jealousy, proving something, impressing people, that might be something else worth exploring. Not wrong, not broken, just different, and maybe worth a conversation with yourself. Number 5. They've figured out what most people are still missing. But let's get back to the collectors who genuinely thrive in this world. Because they've discovered something profound. They understand that value isn't always monetary. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's intellectual. Sometimes it's the quiet satisfaction of knowing you own something that took 300 hours of human labor to create. Think about how we consume now. Fast fashion, disposable tech, everything designed to break, so you'll buy another. Watch collectors looked at that system and said, actually, no. They'd rather save for 2 years to buy one exceptional piece than buy 50 mediocre things. Research from the Journal of Consumer Research shows that people who make fewer, more intentional purchases report higher life satisfaction than those who frequently buy cheap replacements. They're not missing out. They're opting out of a consumption cycle that was never built for people who value permanence over novelty. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Watch collectors often form communities that rival actual families in terms of emotional connection. Online forums, local meetups, entire friendships built around shared appreciation for mechanical movements. They've created a culture where knowledge is currency, where a $200 vintage Seiko gets as much respect as a $50,000 Patek Philippe if the story is good enough. This isn't about money. It's about belonging to something that values what you value. And in a world that's increasingly digital, disconnected, and disposable, finding people who care about the same tangible, lasting things you do, that's not superficial, that's human. So what does this all mean? If you collect watches, you're not just accumulating objects, you're curating a relationship with time, craftsmanship, and legacy. Your brain processes value differently. You see beauty in precision. You find meaning in mechanisms. You understand that some things are worth preserving, even in a world that's racing to replace everything. The next time someone asks, why do you need another watch? Remember, they're asking why you care about permanence in a disposable world, why you honor craftsmanship in an age of mass production, why you collect moments frozen in mechanical perfection that remind you every single day. Time is the most valuable thing you own. You're not materialistic. You're not obsessed. You're not wasting money. You're investing in something that will outlast trends, outlast technology, and maybe, just maybe, outlast you. And honestly, that's exactly what makes you fascinating. So tell me, are you team, I check my phone for time, or team, I own 7 watches and I'm thinking about number 8? Drop it in the comments. Let's find our people. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to support these deep dives, click that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate your support. The next video explains why people who appreciate craftsmanship think completely differently than everyone else, and it's going to feel uncomfortably accurate. I'll see you there.